You don't always have to hear the compressor in action. Welcome to the Rhythm Studio, where we're talking percussion, music production, and music technology. I'm Warren Henry. If you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button and the alert bell so that you can be notified when we release new videos. That said, let's get into it. Warren, I just bought a KT-76. I set the gain reduction and my VU meter isn't moving. At 12 to 1, it's moving a hair, maybe a dB. The input signal is negative 24 on my DAW, and when I turn the input up, I get a nasty noise floor and clicking when I press buttons. I hope I didn't buy junk. When you guys are setting compression, you got to remember, the purpose of a compressor is to contain the dynamics. Some things are more dynamic than others. When approaching compression, ask yourself this question: how much gain reduction do I want on this particular signal? That will solve most of your problems. Sometimes you need a lot of gain reduction, or you want a lot of gain reduction for effect. It is not always necessary to hear a compressor working, unless you are working with room mics, unless you are compressing a guitar cabinet for effect. Other than that, it is not necessary for you all to see extreme gain reduction on the meter. So here's a rule of thumb. When you're working with the compressor, okay, for vocals, you may need just a touch. If you're finding that you have to compress a lot of that problem has to do with poor mic technique, okay? So it would be better to, split the difference between good mic technique and a tad bit of gain reduction than to wholly and solely rely on the compressor to do the job of the vocalist. It is not always necessary to hear the compressor in action. So let's talk about the differences between the KT-76 and the KT-2A. 76, faster attack time overall. The KT-2A, overall, marginally slower. If it's a highly transient source, let's just say a picked rhythm guitar where the rhythm is, and if he hits some of those notes harder than the other, you just want the groove to happen and you want it to be contained in the track. So this way you spend less time trying to balance it in the mix. The same applies to a snare drum. Let's just say you have a drummer that is having a hard time maintaining the same dynamic throughout the entire composition. You just want the snare drum to sit well in the mix. That, as far as I'm concerned, is pinnacle when setting a compressor. To keep it from distorting and overloading the track, okay, point number one, and to get it to sit a lot better come mix time. Which will you choose? The snare drum, depending on the tempo of the song, 76. Maybe if it's something a little bit slower in tempo, then maybe you want to use the KT-2A. In terms of effect, sometimes you want to hear the compressor for effect. Distant room mics, and that you're going to mix in a parallel compression sort of fashion. That's one instance. Or a wall of sound guitar cab setup. Maybe that's what you want. Just to give it a little bit more guts and girth and punch when you're mixing in two sources, the natural source as well as the compressed source. The KT-76 versus the KT-2A are two different types of compressors. Now, like I said, one is FET-based, the other is optical. One reacts quicker than the other. One, from my perspective, has a warmer sound that might sound a bit better on acoustic instruments versus the other. Now, what I have found, and this is a habit that I have incorporated, I'm always watching the meters because I want to know how much gain reduction is being applied. Because sometimes too much can be too much. You may not want that amount of gain reduction. Okay, the only way to know how much gain reduction you're feeding the unit is to eyeball the actual meter and watch and see how much gain reduction is being applied to the source. Sometimes you want a lot, sometimes maybe not. Again, your ears, trust your ears, trust what you're looking at on that meter. You don't always have to hear the compressor in action. If that is your goal, you would be better off creating a parallel track that is squashing it to death, blending the two come mix time for effect. But by and large, the general purpose of any type of compressor is to contain dynamics. Period, point blank, full stop. Hope that helps somebody. Like this video if you like it by giving it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe and don't forget to say hello to the family for me.